Hey guys, hello and welcome to the College Alternative Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Karen?
Today James is interviewing Brittany Palma, who has some background as a personal assistant.
Yeah, so she was on the other day talking about how to become and how to be successful as a real estate agent. She's been doing that for a really long time, but prior to that, she's been an executive assistant up in the Chicago area. So it's not just somebody who's a secretary. These guys are essentially running the lives, running the businesses, running the nonprofits of high-profile individuals. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, she's going to teach you and tell you how to get into that line of work and the perks behind it as well. So she's been able to parlay and leverage a lot of what she's learned in the past into her now enterprises, which is really neat to see.
Yep, so come take a listen and learn how you can do this too.
Thanks, guys.
Interviews with the best in their fields, teaching you how to excel in careers that don't require traditional college. You're listening to the College Alternative Podcast. Insider tips and advice, straight from the experts. And now, here is your host, James Christian.
Cool. So, I'm ready to bust this out.
Okay.
All right, cool. So, so Brittany, we've got you back on.
Yes,
so
I'm back. I'm trying to. There we go. Now I can see you and me. It took me a second.
No, this is awesome. So this is the second time you've been on. It's wonderful to have you back. And every single time I have you on, you've been doing something kind of crazy or awesome. Last time it was what? You got first in Miss Fitness.
Yes.
And then
your body.
Yes. And then this time you were in Dubai.
Yes, it was so exciting.
I'm very jealous. Must have been awesome.
I didn't want to come back.
Oh man. So this is we need to have you on more often because like I said, you're going to be doing something even crazier next time.
Yes, I should have walked you through my new office. We're remodeling and it's just like holes on the wall, the ceiling's coming off, and I'm like, yes, I'm creating everything I want to create.
Nice. Nice. Well, the cool thing here is we've had you on before, and for the listeners out there that haven't taken a look yet, you talked a lot about real estate last time you were on and
yes.
how to do that. But this time I wanted to talk to you more along the lines of because you've had such an eclectic career, when you were doing personal assistant or a personal assistant job or helping, what would you describe it as? Personal assistant, or what would you do?
Everything. I was Miss Everything. No, I'm joking. I did a combination of personal assisting and executive assisting because I worked out of Chicago. I was working with a professional athlete, so it's a little bit different than I think working with just an executive or entrepreneur.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to get into today is that. So, already ton of questions here. So what's the difference between a personal assistant and an executive assistant?
One of the main things is as a personal assistant, you're going to handle a lot of the items at home, or it could be anywhere from assisting with making sure the bills go out to making sure the cleaners are there, doing errands around the home more than in the office. You're doing business meetings, you're working with the financial advisors, the PR, setting meetings, scheduling, making sure all the appointments are on time. So it's a little bit more of the executive side of things, which they really these days are overlapping quite a bit.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I mean, I wouldn't really know, unfortunately. I wish I would have. Oh my God, it would be so much better. But that's what it seems like. Where the line has definitely blurred between the personal side and the executive side, and you just help where you can, right?
Yes. I think my title, or I know my title, was called a relationship manager. So
Ah.
it's just fancy. It's all the same thing. You're doing the same task.
So so you were helping out an athlete up in Chicago, and I don't know if you wanted to name who that was or whatever. That's fine if you don't. But what was the difference between that and just a regular kind of, I guess, CEO? Did you get into more shenanigans, or I mean, was it more exciting to help out an athlete, or what was the difference?
It was fun because he's an athlete. I only had to be in Chicago for half the year, and I got to spend the best months here and the best months there. So when it came to mid-January, during
What are you
those
talking
times
about? Chicago's beautiful.
didn't make the
there.
playoffs. In January, February, I wasn't having to ski down Lakeshore Drive, so that was a win-win situation. Um, so I spent half my year in Chicago, half my year in Arizona. He has properties here in Arizona, so I was able to manage that and do a lot of the work here. I think the difference between working for an athlete versus an executive, and again, each person is different, is the variables that go with it. Like I said, I had to work with the PR, the financial advisors. I would accept awards on his behalf. I set up his 501c3s. We were traveling to where he was from, Sacramento, down to Tucson, in Chicago, just building those relationships within the community and making sure that people were aware of all the amazing things he was doing within the community.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Not just on the field.
Man, so you're doing a lot. So for those people that are interested in being a personal assistant or executive assistant or whatever you want to call it, you're doing quite a lot of different skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
So
was a
how did you
12-hour
learn all that? How did you learn all that? Or how did you market yourself as being able to do all that?
I didn't. I actually was in school at the time. We both went to school together, and then
Oh, okay.
I moved up to Phoenix. So it was just relationship. I was a little personal assistant even while I was in school. I would watch over their dogs when they went back home or check the mail. I would just offer services prior. So it was really a trust factor. And when I was in Scottsdale, I was working in the clinical dentistry industry where I was traveling around the world with the top 5 dentists, teaching other dentists. So I kind of had the task management, and I love to work. So I was open to working 12-hour days. So that's kind of where I got into it. And I'm fast at learning. You have to be quick. You have to have that personality. It's not a place for anyone lazy when you're working 12, 13, 14-hour days at times.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're up when they're up.
Yes.
And you're up beyond when they're up, getting ready for when they get up, I'm assuming.
Yes. So if they say they decide they want to go out that night and they come in at 3 a.m, I definitely wasn't sure, and he got home. The driver was there to pick him up, because obviously you want to protect the reputation with no drinking and driving or anything that is irresponsible. There's a lot of people looking up to you. Not that anyone else should do it, but when you're highlighted, it's even more extreme to make sure. And then you're up at 5 a.m, 6 a.m to make sure you're hitting the East Coast financial advisors and being on those calls.
Oh,
you
my
take
goodness.
naps in between.
But the cool thing, I mean, what were some of the pros of the job? I mean, I'm assuming maybe learning a lot of skills, hooking yourself up with relationships. What did you get out of being an executive assistant?
I loved it. It taught me a lot about business organization and building my own business.
Yeah.
And having contacts. It was really cool to go to the games and to accept awards for the 30 under 30, 40 under 40, deliver 80 computers to different schools, and really getting your foot in the community and teaching these young kids to follow their dreams and not allow the loud, insecure other, students to really bully them. So it was exciting. We focused on young, underprivileged children mostly, And it was really cool to learn how to set up 501c3s, do the PR, what goes into the behind the scenes. I learned quite a bit. If you have an opportunity to work with an athlete, absolutely take it.
Mm-hmm. So this sounds very, very interesting. So I could see somebody thinking of an executive assistant just making sure you get coffee in the morning, and kind of having the car there, and that sort of stuff. But from what it sounds like from your perspective, it accelerated your learning, accelerated your growth as an individual and as an entrepreneur and businesswoman. And that sounds almost priceless. And honestly.
Absolutely. And there's different levels. I mean, I have friends who are scheduling their private planes, and you have to understand that pilots could only fly for, say, 12 hours at a time, and they need to rest. So you need to schedule literally all of their flights around the various pilots. You learn quite a bit as you get in the higher tiers of the executives that you would never otherwise know. And it's pretty cool to handle a transaction of a private aircraft. That's a big deal.
Well, not only that, but I mean, this sets you up for the nonprofit, becoming an executive director for nonprofits, logistics side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really, really neat. That's really, really cool that you were able to do that.
A lot. Like now that I'm in Tucson, I'm able to contribute a lot more than I ever would have been able to had I not experienced
it was
years.
kind of like trial by fire, I'm assuming, a little bit there, but now you've got all this experience. That's really cool.
Yes, I loved it. I really did.
So when you started out, you said it was more along the lines of a friendship aspect. That's kind of how you were able to get in to being able to do it, right? Is that typical? Or
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. So you definitely you either have an in, at least with a professional athlete, you have an in with their agent, their financial advisor, or themselves. They're going to want to trust you. It's a very intimate place to be when you're dealing with someone's life. Literally, their name is their brand.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to trust you. And
you're seeing stuff behind the scenes too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I'm working with their whole family. Like I did everything from buying, it goes back to the personal assistant side of it, buying birthday presents or holiday gifts, whatever that may be, checking on their properties, making sure everything is together, even checking the mail, or having someone coordinate to check the mail when we were in the other city.
Yeah, no, not Chicago.
Yeah.
Skiing. So were you skiing in your car or actual?
People were actually skiing down Lakeshore Drive. My unit was right facing Lakeshore Drive, which was really awesome to have. So it was funny to watch people like literally getting out of their car skiing because they got trapped that year. It was 2009, I believe, maybe 2010. It was ugly. I got to stay inside though.
Nice. So for those people that don't have an in though, I mean, how would you even get started with something like this? Do you just need to establish relationships, or are there things online?
There's definitely job positions that go up online. I would certainly encourage them to start at like executive level, but take your time moving up because the expectations are quite high when you get to the elite athlete or CEO of a large company. It's intense, and so you want to make sure you have the knowledge and the experience to put on your resume, but mostly they don't care about your resume, they care about you performing, and your job can be taken very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. I have a lot of girlfriends who are executive assistants out in Chicago, and you can make a couple $100,000 a year doing it. You put in the work, but it's fun, it's ever changing, and it challenges you to be better every single day.
Yeah, I was reading. I'm powering my way through that Elon Musk book, his
cool.
biography. Yeah, and they definitely touch upon his executive assistant and how she's just like playing all these key roles, and from like having her desk right next to him and just like, don't bother him. He's not in the best of moods right now. And they just walk right away. Like these people you guys have a lot of power when it comes to scheduling and allowing people to see, because these CEOs and athletes and everybody, they're busy and their time is expensive. So,
Absolutely. I was considered the lifeline. He called me the lion. So I would protect anyone. No one got to him unless they went through me, and it had to be pretty important unless otherwise noted if he said they could. So it's a big role, and you never really get credit for doing good. You always get told when you're doing bad, so you have to
I'm
have
sure you
thick
do.
skin.
Yeah.
Yes. So you make everything happen, and then it happens, and everyone gives recognition to someone else, and you're okay with that because you know you created it and you gave that experience, and it's pretty cool. You have to have thick skin.
Yeah. I'm sure that's one of the biggest responsibilities you just touched on is just that personal relationship you have with them, and it's not necessarily setting up the 501c3s. It's not necessarily, accepting the awards. It's that personal side where they trust you with their time. That's the biggest responsibility you probably have.
Absolutely. I would get calls, late at night or early in the morning just as a soundboard, and you're there because they trust you and they know that you're not going to be biased in your response, and sometimes you're not going to even respond. You're just listening.
So so take me through this. So you were a friend of the family. Did you get hired on with a business to become a personal assistant as well, or did you just get hired through his essentially company, or just get paid directly through him?
So
Or
I
did you?
actually met him in college. I don't want to say, but yeah, we met in college, and then we stayed so we met at U of A, and then it was 7 years after we originally met is when I started working for him, and I worked for him part-time out of Arizona. And so I was hired on through his LLC.
Oh, okay. So his LLC.
Yeah, so many of the athletes will be an LLC in themselves because their name, they don't want to be, sued or anything like that, obviously. And people go after athletes and famous people for a lot of things. But so I got hired underneath his LLC and just started working directly for him. So I would take my commands through him, and I would command others through his voice and just say, this came from Lance, and I would literally respond through email, phone, everything.
Okay, yeah, because what I'm trying to get at is, like I was saying, I'm sure there are online resources that are popping up offering personal assistant or executive assistant connections,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure there's actual, physical businesses out there that are probably doing the same thing. If I was a CEO, I'd go and look through the yellow pages or whatever, the white pages, looking for
Do they have those still?
I actually got one on my front porch. I'll probably be throwing it in the recycling here fairly soon.
I didn't even know they had them anymore. That's awesome.
But the white pages is a place that used to have all the businesses.
Oh, that's great.
But it seems like if you don't have that personal relationship route to go, there are definitely resources online to start hooking yourself up, to start doing this. But you're saying start out small. Start out maybe with one task, or start out with somebody who's maybe not as big of a celebrity out there and grow your reputation.
So there's levels of athletes. Like when you get into the industry, you kind of understand who's like an A, B, C level athlete. So even if you work part-time for someone, that's a great, and I would highly recommend you research. For me, when I want a new client, I would do the research. I'd find out who their agent was, who they worked with on their financial advising, and I would make those introductions. I would make it a point to show up those events, whether it's traveling to Los Angeles and being at the ESPYs or being at, in Chicago at the nonprofit events. When you want something, if you're built for this position, you will go get it. You will figure out how to be in front of that person and make yourself stand out.
So how did you acquire? What was that? Sorry.
I was going to say on the athlete side, as far as like an executive assistant, if you're going to be in an office, majority of the times they're having their HR post that, and it doesn't have to be as a personal of the relationship.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that. Like I said, I mean, some of these top level CEOs, I mean, their business is their life. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, they're on 24/7. So yeah, you're on 24/7. So
Yeah, some of the top executives I would say would be more open to hiring someone who they don't know rather than who they do know. But as an athlete or an entertainer, majority of the times it's someone who they do have a relationship with.
yeah, so get in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
start establishing that relationship with them. Okay. And so you're talking about all these different skills here. How do you acquire all of these different skills? How do you gain the confidence to be able to know that you can do all these different things that they're gonna maybe almost randomly, seemingly out of the blue, require you to do?
Yes. So I would say have a really good mentor, number one, or business coach. And number two, try to get it done. And if you know you cannot do it, let that be known as early as possible, because majority of the times they do know someone who can and they will connect you. They are still human. They understand that, hey, you might not know how to do all the legalities of this. Call my attorney. You have to make smart choices. I would never pretend I know how to do something and mess up that situation. But it's definitely, sometimes it is trial and error. Sometimes they say, I've never done this. Go ahead and write this business plan and let's see how it looks, and we'll have someone, review it afterwards.
Okay. So
it's just built for a certain person. I will definitely say it has to be someone who's witty and who can make decisions. No, if that person needs to be micromanaged, it's probably not for them.
Yeah, and get stuff done. That self-starter. I think you hit it on right on the head there. You have to get stuff done and almost anticipate what they might need.
Exactly.
That's cool, though. That's really, really cool. I'm just, more and more I talk to you, the more and more I'm thinking this does set you up for success later on in life. Like, you're learning a ton of different information, eclectic information. That's really, really neat. So, does appearance play a role as well? I know competence does, and having a variety of different skill sets, but does appearance as well play a role? How you look, how you present yourself?
There are times, I think a lot of the job is behind the scenes, but yes, if I'm going and I'm accepting an award on his behalf, I need to look professional. I need to be clean. I need to be able to communicate in front of 500 people and be comfortable walking up on stage and speaking on his behalf or being knowledgeable. So it's competence. Again, it goes back to being witty, to be able to charm a crowd and be flexible in whatever atmosphere you're in. Presentable, definitely.
So when you're accepting that award, that's not like, that's the time to get the butterflies.
Yes. You have to let it all go out, because you are going to, if they're out of town, be stepping on that stage and thanking everyone and doing a short speech.
Yeah, because you're essentially their face for that short period of time. Yeah.
You probably did all the work to get that award, so.
Thank you. I would like to accept this award for
Yes.
But that's a big thing that people maybe could easily overlook. And it's not just having the skills, but it's also playing that role or that part. It's looking the part too.
Correct.
Yeah.
And just being aware of your surroundings. When you go into any environment, you have to be on your toes in all situations, because people are approaching and interrupting, whether it's dinner with their kids when they only get it once a night. I think people forget how often they don't get to spend dinner with their kids. Like, they're working late and they kind of forget that, and they want their autograph or their attention when all they want is 1 hour with their child.
And I think it just goes back to, the internet and guys posting all the time on Instagram, and then you have that perceived openness or that perceived level of interaction there even though it's just online. It seems like it's easier for people to approach. Well, he's on Instagram, he's on Twitter posting all the time. I feel as though I almost have that relationship with him based upon that. I feel as though I can walk up to this person and just, like you said, interrupt the 1 hour that this guy might have to spend with his kids. Okay. That's true. So you were mentioning about rates and everything like that. And I know we talked about, it's not just about paying, because this is really setting you up for for success later on in life. I mean, it's setting you up with skills, relationship building, how to conduct yourself in this environment, etc. But as far as rates are concerned, how does that work with something like this?
Usually it's a salary based.
Okay.
Unless you have a company. If you set up a company, I had a company which was called One Life Management with a partner, Janelle, and we would charge hourly rates. We would also do weekend packages or week packages depending on if we were doing a week long, say we were setting up a yacht and an event, saying we're flying in all the guys, 15 guys into Miami or whatever that may have been. We would do rates, packages.
Yeah.
But typically it's a salary. I don't see
through their LLC, right? Yeah.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then there can be incentive bases, like if you raise X amount of dollars donated, that a percentage goes back to you, or it can be structured. It's definitely a variable with each athlete and what their expectations are for you to do and who they have on their team already.
Okay. And then what kind of clients did you look for? You mentioned that you and your partner set up an LLC yourselves for this.
We did.
What type of clients did you look for? Were there better clients than others that you kind of wanted to say, hey, maybe I should avoid these particular ones, or these are the type that I really want to attract to the company?
Yes. There are definitely clients that you rather attract.
Okay.
It was a learning process. We started in the NFL, and then we started to expand in the NBA. NFL has a shorter period of lifetime as a professional athlete. I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah.
The NBA being probably closer to 10 years. I'm not too sure about the statistics now. But more importantly, we learned that you want to get in with the agents and the financial advisors because their term of employment is a lot longer than either of those two. And they actually are getting paid probably the same, if not more, depending on the size of their firm.
Okay. So
I always go to, if I could recommend anything, I would say get your foot into an agency.
Yeah, okay. So it seems like you were more attracted to the type of sport than maybe the type of person or the personality. Is that what you're saying there, or does that matter as well?
It does once you get to a certain level, because then I can be picky and I can say I don't want to deal with someone who has me set up say a whole week worth of events and then doesn't show up to it. So then you learn who's flighting, who's not, and it's not fun because you're putting your name on it. Again, you're that point person. So if I'm coming to you and you own the W Hotel, and I just gave them a shout out, and we do a huge event there, and then you don't show up to it, it makes me look bad because we just did all the marketing. It makes them look bad as well, but it definitely, they're not going to be as eager to say, hey, yeah, Brittany, come over here, let's set up this huge event, and them not show up.
Yeah. Okay. Is this okay? Because I was thinking it would be something along the lines of working with a particular person versus not another person. That would be kind of the deal breaker or whatever. But it seems like it's just interesting. You're breaking it down more along the lines of looking at it from a business perspective in terms of what's the longevity of the life of the athlete or the entertainer, and how's that going to set me up for success, in the long term. And that's how you kind of categorize or prioritize who you try to recruit into the executive assistant, right?
Correct, because if you are playing in the NFL and on the 4th year you don't get a new contract, then you're most likely not going to need me anymore, or cannot afford the services. Or as the players or athletes or entertainers get married, a lot of times their wives will come in and take on a lot of those roles. So it changes your level of need as well.
Definitely changes the relationship, and that's true.
Yeah.
Well,
they're not hanging out as much, or and a lot of times their wives can book their flights and stuff. It's stuff that it's easily done. It's just they don't have the time to do it.
Yeah. I think, again, just people, underestimate the amount of time these guys have in a single day to be able to accomplish everything they really want to do.
Yeah, I know my client would leave the house around 5, 6 and be gone all the way till sometimes 11 o'clock at night, 10 at night. And although they get breaks in between then, they're working majority of the time, whether it's film or training or getting recovery for their injury. So, yeah.
And then you're also leaving the house at 5 and not getting back until midnight.
Yes, I didn't go to the training facility as often, but I was definitely working and making sure the driver was there or making sure he was up and going to practice. So you're like the alarm clock and the mom that says, okay, you need to be home now, go to bed.
So how long did it take you before you became comfortable in doing this role? Or were you ever comfortable, fully doing everything they asked you to?
Yeah, I was always comfortable. I like
Okay.
I'm not easily disturbed or flustered. So there were times that it was stressful, but we had a solid team. We definitely did. We had a PR lady that handled majority of the tasks, and then we had someone who handled a lot of the nonprofit aspects of it as well. So we had a good team, and that's the most important thing, is to trust everyone on your team, and the personalities will come out very quickly in a stressful environment. So
So it's not just you trying to do everything, holding up all these spinning plates up in the air. It's that team aspect.
Correct. For like Lance Briggs, he's a huge athlete. He was one of the top linebackers, I think, at like 7 or 8 time Pro Bowler. So, and that level of work, you're going to have a team. I will say you're still the point person. So if something goes wrong, it's still your fault. It doesn't matter if someone else is heading that division. You were overseeing it, and you should have noticed it, and it should have been done correctly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's ultimately falling on you, but don't just think that you're having to do everything. You're following up, obviously, but...
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this something... I had this question down. Is it easy to scale up? Because it seems like you did have... you did start a firm with your own... with a partner here. Was this something that you were able to scale? Or is this something where it's just really just one client, one assistant?
No, so that's a tricky question. So a lot of athletes now are hiring part-time. There are a lot of concierge companies out there. There are a lot of marketing companies out there. It grew quite a bit in the last 15 years. People caught on quickly. And so because people caught on quickly, there are smaller businesses that can take on individual clients, and then there's huge concierge companies that take on, the larger clients as well. Even corporations, they will head all of the C-level executives. So it just depends on how big you want to be. I definitely would suggest either working for a company, a larger concierge company, or directly for one client before you go establish your business and think you can take everything on, because there is liability to it once you become your own company.
Yeah. And then how do you market yourself? How are you guys able to market?
You're their exposure. So when I would set up the football camps, we would fly in 15 other athletes. So that means I'm calling you, I'm learning your birthday and your legal name, and if your wife or girlfriend is going to attend, if you have kids, and so you build that intimate relationship as you're bringing them to, say, another football camp in Tucson or Sacramento. And then when you build that relationship, they see what you're doing for your current client, and they say, oh, well, are you taking on new clients, or can you help me with this? And then you go from there.
Okay. So, personal relationships. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you really have to be personal. You really have to be personable with something like this.
Absolutely. You have to have a good personality. It'd be really cool.
Really cool. And said, it's not just be really cool. You're right. But it's like you are wearing so many different hats. It's amazing to me that you gotta be able to do so much, and that's really, really neat. Like I said, this is really, really cool.
You just have to be organized too. Very organized, sharp, all the time. It definitely stimulates your brain.
So one final question for you here, though. What makes a great personal or executive assistant? What would be like kind of the ultimate best personal assistant for those that are out there?
I would say the best personal assistant would be someone who genuinely cared. I think having a personal relationship or knowing the importance of the role, the impact of one failure from that person could bring down a company or could lose a game or could disappoint 5,000 students. You have to care, and once you have a family, it's a bit harder, I will say. Like, I was single when I was doing it with no kids, and so
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
easier to have that, you know. I'm not saying you can't, because I don't want to discourage someone who has a family, but it is a lot of hours, and you are putting more care into that person than you probably are into your own home during those 12, 13 hours a day.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, family life for someone like this. I mean, this sounds like what? This is definitely set up more for the young person out
Yeah,
there.
you can go, go, go. Now I'm in bed at 8:30, and I don't think
Oh
I
my
can
God, I'm
stay
so
up
tired.
this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I put our kids to bed around 7:38, and I'm like, I wish I could be going to bed right now too. I'm so lame.
I do go to bed, and then I wake up at 4:35, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's make business happen.
Nice. So it sounds okay. So to kind of cut all this down and distill all this, it seems like it's about relationship building right off the bat, right?
Mhm.
It's establishing that relationship early on and getting yourself in front of these people, right? Attending the award ceremony or attending where they're at, or
Mhm.
getting with a firm, right? And then maybe
Yes.
getting hired on that way. Are a lot of so when you talk about, I said that was the last question, but sorry about that. So when you're talking about athletes and entertainers and everything like that, that can't comprise a lot or the vast majority of where this is going. It seems like are a lot of firms with CEOs and executive level officers, are they employing more and more of these people or executive assistants?
There are a couple that I can think of on the top of my head that definitely have the accessibility to the athletes because or entertainers, especially in Los Angeles, once one, say, actress or athlete starts using someone, they talk a lot. So then you're going to share that and you're going to utilize that. There's a lot of concierge companies that do personal assisting, executive assisting, and offer VIP cards and they pay monthly amounts and they get unlimited requests. So people are
Hmm.
being creative and things are definitely changing and happening. And I'm not all the way up to date on it because that hasn't been my target audience. But I
Yeah.
know all of that was becoming my competition at the time when I made the transition into real estate. But yeah, I think that a lot of stuff is posted online when it comes to corporate level, especially in the larger cities. There's more accessibility to those positions. In LA, it's going to be all who you know. In New York, all who you know. Miami, the larger cities. It does make a difference when it comes to the entertainment
Okay.
industry and athletes.
Okay, so maybe it sounds like it might almost be better just to start off with the corporate face and cut your teeth there and get your knowledge there. And then if you wanted to, then move over into the celebrity, the athletic side of the house. Maybe, unless you already have those pre-established relationships going, which is always to a benefit, but maybe that sounds like maybe the better route to take for someone who's starting off.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point that you made. I think that if I was going in it today, that's exactly what I would do. I would find a company that supports, that's large enough and gives me enough work and supports the local community. If I was in Chicago, say, you know, it was the Bricks for Kids charity event, I would make sure that we start supporting that if I wanted to start working for him and then make myself known to the financial advisor or their agent at those events. And then also the athlete, which you don't really have accessibility to the athlete too much if you don't know them.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you're getting the financial advisor or agent, then you have your foot in the door. Can I intern there? for a set amount of hours, and then you get access to the athlete. But really, you want with the agent, because the agent is overseeing, say, 100 athletes. That gives you job security.
Mm-hmm. And that gets you access to a lot of different ones that maybe athlete A already has somebody, but athlete B or C doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah. But it sounds like it's hustling. It's a lot of hustle,
Yeah.
especially initially, and then maybe even it ramps up even after, like, oh, I'm done. I've got a job. No. Now it's like, actually, let's accelerate this and work even harder.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, so from the marketing side of the house and hustling, and then starting off young is always going to be better for something like this. When you're young and you can stay up and work.
Yeah, I was in my mid-20s. It was perfect. I was able to get up and leave Arizona, move to Chicago, and work. Like, put in the work, show that I was competent and able to produce the results that he was looking for, as well as, take advantage because of what I was doing. Of course, I was learning as much as possible to be able to implement it. Because my long-term goals, because I had that business coach, was to have my own company, which then created, and then I was able to utilize even those skills here in Tucson to do business-to-business development here, which then branched off into opening up my real estate company, using that to build business.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So you had a business coach even when you were doing the executive assistant?
Absolutely. He
Okay.
was
I mean, I understand it now when you actually have a business and everything like that. But I mean, what foresight did you have to go that route right off the bat? Why did you do that? Invest like that?
I was a psychology major, and so all of my books, it's funny, my sister makes fun of me all the time, because if you look on my bookshelves, it's all about like life coaching, business planning, the psychology. She's like, do you have issues? I'm like, no, I just want to learn and be better. So right off the bat, I knew I needed someone to hold me accountable for what my goals wanted to be. I knew where I wanted to be at certain points. And that's when I learned from, I actually met him at an event, and he was head of a financial firm out of San Francisco at the time. And so it was perfect because he made me aware of I needed my personal life goals as well set. So then I had an even balance and I could continue to succeed on the business side of it. So when we had that conversation, I just never stopped. I just knew I needed someone who was smarter, wealthier, more successful in the community, in their home life, that could show me to, teach me to be accountable for what I need to be accountable for in order to reach my goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's extremely smart to have somebody maintain accountability for you, and probably maybe even reprimand you and be like, hey, like we talked about this last time, you need to, we're all lazy. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, we all would just, I would much rather just sit on the couch, watch TV all day. Like, oh, I'm done. But
see,
but
my
good.
problem is he would say, you didn't take your vacation like you said you were going to take the first week in June. Like, I scheduled my vacations in January, and then I was like, oh yeah, I didn't go on that. I got, this came up.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess you're definitely the opposite. I feel like, I'm done. I'm just gonna eat nachos all day, and things like that. But I probably shouldn't be talking to a bodybuilder about about nachos. But I mean, that's huge too. I mean, we constantly talk about mentorship, and we constantly talk about having somebody hold you accountable, and whatever your life goals are. I mean, you should be talking to somebody who's either A, been down that road, or B can be holding you accountable to those goals. And I think that's a big thing.
And if you choose the right business coach or life coach, they have contacts. So say you don't go to college and you don't have that relationship with the Lance Briggs, you build that relationship with that executive, and that executive is going to hold you under their wings and introduce you, because you're that young entrepreneur that needs help. And they are that mentor, that leader, that, hey, I'm creating this person. This person is willing to work hard. Let me help you. How can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? And utilize that.
So how do you find somebody that's appropriate for this? Did you just hire like a firm, or did you establish a relationship with this person, or how did you find a person that could do this for you?
Myself personally, I go off of relationships. Everything about me is like a deep relationship. I want to know who you are. I want to know why you chose that profession. So I actually interview the person even prior to the true interview. But I know there are a lot of companies online. You can choose. There's so much access on the internet. If you just research Google, you can definitely do that. For me, it was important to know someone who was happy in life, not just successful, genuinely was happy in their life, because that's where I wanted to be.
And I think you're right. I think there is a lot of access online, but you could easily fall into the trap of just going that route of just not trying to figure out the good relationships out there, and not trying to even establish a relationship with this person. You just go off of maybe a Yelp review or what other people say about them. I think that's a big thing, is talking with these people, and like you said, is their life path aligning with what your goals are in life and what you want to do and accomplish? So, yeah.
There's a lot of like young professional committees, and in whatever industry you're in, for instance, real estate, or even if I was still doing executive assistant, there's a lot of chambers that you can join. There's so much accessibility. You just have to not be lazy. You have to do the research. You have to show up. You have to do the events and be present, because they want to see your face. They want to trust you just as much as you want to trust them.
Nice. All right. Well, Brittany, thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me again.
No, this is wonderful. It's great. I'm just gonna peel back the layers of the onion. Oh, I'm sure you've done plenty more with your life. We can always keep having you on, talking about all the stuff you've done in your life.
I would love to be back on.
But this is really cool, and I think, like you said, this is just really amazing, and it's awesome that you went from an executive assistant and you've been able to leverage that and constantly be improving yourself in your professional life, and utilizing all that you've learned to be able to move on and move into other entrepreneurial roles. So I think executive assistant, it's not just that one moment in time where you have a job. It's actually setting you up for success later down the road. And I think it's too easy to not think about that, but it's definitely something where you should definitely think about it, especially when you're young, because it can be like you.
Absolutely. I think it's a great profession to go into.
Yeah, and 10, 15 years down the road, it's really gonna set you up for success. Professional accountability. You've got all this experience about how to set stuff up. It's just really, really awesome.
Yes, if you can be the foundation of their business, you can be the foundation of your own business. So it's good.
Nice. Well, Brittany, thanks again. We'll have you on, and then you can tell us more about all your adventures overseas and everything else. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in yet again to listen to another podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, this podcast is for you guys. Excuse me. This podcast is for you guys. So if you could tell us any way that we can help you guys out, please let us know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends as well.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Bye.